Tricia really enjoyed this opportunity to open up our house to you and invite you here today. We really have gotten it's been a lot of fun to get to know Louis and his family so much better. I just really enjoy every time I meet Benjamin, how he'll say, "I'm happy to meet you," and it's just he's such a delightful child. I just want to thank you for coming today. Well, we do have an election coming up, and a lot of you probably haven't even voted before, and then a lot of you have always been diligent at voting. And what I'd like you to really encourage you to do is to get out and vote and be part of the process. In the city of Johns Creek, in the House District, it's about 25% Asian population, and that's really Indian, Chinese, Korean, and probably other Asian groups. And typically, they don't really get involved in the process so much. And I just think that when we have 30%, 25% Asian population, that your voice really isn't being heard. I've reached out to you, and Louis has reached out to me, and so we're talking to each other. But as you get more engaged in the process, then we really get to hear what your concerns are. I never realized that there was a Chinese school. I didn't know what Louis was talking about, and Mike was talking about a Chinese school. What are you talking about? I thought it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we go there Saturday. Now I understand what Chinese school is, okay? And so the kids were learning, Chinese characters, Chinese language, Chinese history, and your culture. And I know that's very important to you, and that's tremendous because as they grow older, to have a second language, especially your native tongue, that's very important for you, but also for them. It'll actually, pay them dividends from a business standpoint. When I was 10 years old, we moved to Canada. And that's the first time I was exposed to a different language, because Canada, up in Quebec, is French. In Ontario, it was English, but we had to start taking French. And I wish I was a better student, but I could still fall back on my English, and I didn't have to really learn French because we didn't live in Quebec. But if I would have learned another language, it would have helped me when I did business with French people in France. I would fly over to Paris. Now, all the French people could speak English, but I was kind of at a disadvantage. And the higher ups could speak both languages, but the folks at the lower level of engineering, I couldn't really converse with them. So I just think that keeping your language in Chinese school is tremendous. Also, though, it was really neat when I looked at the dance studio. I know that it's primarily probably geared for Chinese folks, but I saw a young girl that was African American. I saw an American, I guess Caucasian is what you call us. I don't know what you call us, but, but in other words, you're very open. It was for anyone that wants to learn dance, and I think that's just really speaks volumes to you. On election night, which was really surprising, but we have our treasurer, June Cornett, was here, and she was talking to one of the people that was here that night. I don't know if it was Jackie. Yeah. I think it was Jackie. And all of a sudden they started talking, and June says, "I've been doing BSF at your church for the last 5 or 6 years." And so you've been really welcoming to the community and really have reached out. And I think that's tremendous. That speaks volume about your faith, and it speaks volumes about your character. So I think elections really come down to, at the end of the day, is what is the person's character? What do they really believe? And I'm a committed conservative. I've never been a liberal. I was his son. I don't know, I guess I was born a conservative, but I just really believe in hard work. And I had my first job when I was probably about 12 years old. It was a part-time job. I delivered some newspapers. We lived in an apartment complex. We got some big, I guess, potato chips and that kind of stuff. You go door to door and you could sell that to make some money. Years later, I would walk through the rivers along the golf course, and I would pick up old golf balls and I would resell them to make money. Then I worked in construction. And construction's not a lot of fun. And then I continue, obviously, I got my degree in engineering. So I'm committed to hard work, and I think that the Republican ideal is all about hard work. And y'all know your history better than I do. But if you look at, over in Asia, you look in, Malaysia, you look in Hong Kong, you look in Indonesia, all the places where you have these little pockets of entrepreneurialism. It's the Chinese business person that has his little business, and he's contributing to the economy. And so the Chinese people, they have a history of being business owners and being entrepreneurial. y'all are Republicans, if you didn't know that. Because that's what we're all about. We're all about thrift and hard work. And a lot of times we have a big faith component. Because faith to us is very important. We don't have a faith test. People have different faiths. But we think that sometimes, I believe that when people have a faith in something bigger than themselves, it gives you something to live for, maybe. And then obviously family is really important. You know, Tricia and I, we met in grade 11. We started dating in grade 12. And so we've been married now for 38 years. And it's been a tremendous life. We have 3 kids. We have 1 grandchild. We hope someday we'll have more grandchildren, because they're just a true blessing. This race to us is going to come down to who has a vision. Because I think that the wisest man who ever lived was Solomon. And when he wrote his Proverbs, he wrote a tremendous one. He said, without a vision, the people perish. And when you look at that, when people cast a positive vision, it can really do tremendous things for your community, your country, your state, for your business. And you look at, so people like Bill Gates had a tremendous positive vision in business, and he's done some tremendous things. You look at Ronald Reagan, what he did in the political side, who was a conservative side. You also look on the left side, you know, FDR, he had a vision. I didn't agree with his vision, but he was a president for a long time because he had a vision. So my vision, if I'm elected at the State House, and if you would vote for me, is that I would like to see us eliminate the state income tax. Because if you eliminate the state income tax, what that will do, and move to a consumption-based tax, it would make us similar to Florida, Texas, and Tennessee. What that will do is actually promote imports and exports. We have one of the largest ports in the world here in Georgia. We have the Port of Savannah. We also have the container port in Brunswick. Import and exports are huge for us. That's going to be good for businesses. The more that business does well, and the more that then you'll be able to participate in that maybe on some other level, the more that we can participate in business growth, it's good for the whole state. And so I think that that is going to be good for us. But also, South Carolina wants to do that. And if we have South Carolina start eliminating their state income tax, it really puts us in a position we won't have a choice. But I just believe that that is something that's going to be good for us. Right now, a lot of people, when they get older, people say that sometimes if you eliminate the state income tax, that's not, you know, progressive. Well, I think the income tax is actually regressive. The idea that people keep on producing more and achieve more, that you take more. I think that, I just don't know where that really comes from. And I think the idea that you have a flat tax, it just makes a whole lot more sense. And I think that will be really good for the Georgian, average Georgian voter, the average Georgian taxpayer. We were today in, you don't know where all the precincts are, I do, but we were in JC08 today. And so that is up on Agate Road and Cinnabar. And not everyone in Johns Creek is wealthy. I work in the construction business, and we work really hard for what we do, and we work on really, really small margins. It takes a long time for us to make something. But there's a lot of people in this community, you know, regardless of what their racial background is, that they're still struggling. And I bring to the, even though I'm conservative, I actually still have a heart. So I have accountability, because that's very important. You just can't give things to people without them working. But also I have a heart, and I think that when you tax less, and people can keep more of their efforts, that that is the fair thing to do. So I think that's really huge. Lewis and I talked also about your church, and whatever I can do to help, you know, your actual local church issue. When we're at the state level, we don't get involved in the local levels, but it's good to have a friend in the State House when you want to do something at your church. I want to point out that you have a really good friend also in your city council member, Bob Gray. He's been reaching out to Lewis, and he's on city council, and Bob Gray has done work internationally all over the world, and so he wants to do whatever he can to help you, you know, in your local issues. And I'll certainly do anything I can to help facilitate that behind the scenes, to help you as you continue to grow, you know, your church. I don't think you're all from that same church, but I know that's a concern for some of you. So that would be a huge issue. The other one that I think I can safe to say here but education is really important in this area. I have a degree in engineering. I'm a civil engineer. I also have an MBA. We have our young Harvard student somewhere. There he is. That's tremendous. You know, getting into, that's a top. Harvard says it's the best school in the country, but definitely it's top 5, and so that's a tremendous achievement. And I know that you all value education. My father, Patricia and I got married when we were halfway in college, and what my dad said is, Brad, I still want to pay for your college. I said, Dad, I can pay for it. He said, no, I want to pay for your education. That's really important. So my father really wanted to make sure that all of, my brothers and sisters, got a college education. So my one sister, she's a retired school teacher up in Toronto. My other sister is still a school teacher in DeKalb. My other sister has a degree from UGA in computer science, and she just stays home with her kids and volunteered at a local Christian school. But my father really valued education. And at the state level, what's really important is that we protect the North Fulton tax dollars. What's happened over the last few years is that this pupil-teacher ratio has gone from 22 up to 27. And what happened is some of the money that probably should have come back to Fulton County kind of disappeared and went to other parts of the state with that attitude, well, those people up in North Fulton have lots of money. Well, we do, it is a above average income, but we don't need to have the state dollars not coming back, because we don't need to be a donor community, and I'll fight hard for the education dollars. Because if you don't have education in this day and age, I just don't, it's very difficult to be successful. It's tough, and that's why you want the very best for your children. I want the very best for my grandchildren, and so fighting for the education dollars would be big. I am a civil engineer, and I think the other big issue in Johns Creek is transportation and road improvements. We have to do something to fix traffic. I was sharing at the restaurant, I believe I shared it with you, but several years ago, it's a little point that maybe didn't seem too important at the time, but 1% of the 4% sales tax for gas was taken and was put into the general fund. And that's $185 million a year. And when it went over to the general fund, it was worth $185 million a year. Here's the secret. Here's what people didn't realize. When you have transportation money, what happens is that you apply also to the federal government, and the federal government will match what you're putting in. And the typical funding formula is 90-10. If the state puts in 10%, the federal government puts in 90%. Now, I don't like the federal government, okay? I think they spend too much money. But if they have money and we could get it for our state, why wouldn't we take it? And so if Tom Price wants to stop, spending money, I will vote for that, okay? But until the rest of the people up there quit spending money. And so actually, what we hurt ourselves with is it cost us $1.5 billion a year. And our road deficit problem each year is about $1.5 billion. So it's kind of like we just pulled out a gun and we went bang, bang, we shot ourselves in both feet. We just got money that went to the general fund, and we need to bring that back. It would be huge for transportation. Because if you sit on 141, it's not a lot of fun. And it's not efficient. And we need to do something with that. So I think transportation, education, and eliminating the state income tax will be huge for me. And so now I'm ready for questions. So,
what can you do with 141? It's not only Johns Creek.
Right. Oh, right, but it'll be proportional. And so we have 82,000 people, and we also have the whole North Fulton community. So there will be more tax dollars or more revenue, transportation dollars available. And so it adds up. It's all incremental. So our problem, the 1.85 billion is statewide. It's not just Johns Creek. That's a statewide problem. So he just said, what is our problem each year? It's probably that 82,000 out of 10 million people, this percentage.
So how to solve the 141?
The 1 for 1? What do you mean by 1 for 1?
Yeah, because I noticed Kelly and you argue about the traffic.
Right.
He said that you want to build new street. She said that no, we should improve existing system.
No, I didn't say I wanted to go.
No,
Johns
I
Creek,
don't.
yeah, Johns Creek and
argue with you. I would like to know what's the detail.
Well, the detail is that we first of all need to fix the transportation budget. If we don't fix the transportation budget and get back to 1%, there won't be any more money. And it'll be incremental improvements. Just like when I was on city council, we widened on Jones Bridge from Abbott's Bridge 120 up to Sargent. There's 2 lanes now, this southbound, 2 lanes, northbound. But we really need to widen Jones Bridge from Sargent all the way to McGinnis Ferry. If we had more transportation dollars, we'll be able to do that sooner. If we don't change the 1%, then it's just going to extend out the period of fixing it. So that needs to be something that we do this year.
How about the Martha? Because the Martha only hit in the Picard and the Fulton County.
Right.
They cannot extend out to the
Well,
Gwinnett or the Cobb County.
What they really need to have is they really need to get buy-in from Cobb County and also Gwinnett County.
Yeah.
And so those are really county issues for those people over there. But if they ever decide to want to do that, then there'll actually be more money, because 1% is huge. We've been carrying the whole load for several years. And if you really look at MARTA, the problem with MARTA is that we need something on the 141 corridor. If you can improve 400, it may help. With Gwinnett, that'll be a decision by Gwinnett to join MARTA. And there's actually discussions going with this legislative session and also with Cobb. And I think that comes under really Greta, the regional transportation system that they want to do. We want to actually expand out MARTA and add some counties to it. Clayton County has decided they want to join MARTA.
Brad, I understand that you also champion Milton County.
Right.
Can you help us map out the direction, what sequence of things need to happen make that happen?
Realistically, to create Milton County, it's a 6 to 8 year process. So this year, I'm sure that Jan Jones is already working on what we want to try and do is roll back the 17% property tax hike that Fulton County did to us last year. Going forward with Milton County, we need a couple things to happen. We can either have counties combined. The state constitution says you can only have 159 counties, and that's what we have. I already found a county commission chairman down in Toombs County. He's 30 years old, and he said that he's the chairman, and he said he would combine his county with the county next door, and he said, to use a Japanese term, he would fall on his sword. He doesn't need to be the big boss. So many times what happens is, if you're the county commission chairman of your county, you're the county commission chairman of your county, and you say, let's merge, then you both say, well, I don't want to quit. This 30-year-old man says the other man can be the county commission chairman, which is huge. He's 30 years old. I met him through the Republican leadership for Georgia. So that would help consolidate counties. There's a lot of poor counties that can't really pay their school taxes, school boards are upside down, and just really fire, police, all those other services. So you have consolidation there. That fixes one problem. We actually need a constitutional amendment, because right now, if it came up to a vote, we have to get all of Fulton County to agree that we can leave. Well, if every day I was giving you $100, I was giving you $100, $100, and you didn't do anything, you just got $100 every day, and then we had to have a vote with 51%, to stop that, you would never agree to it, right? And that's the problem that we have with South Fulton. They don't want to let us go. And so we really need a constitutional amendment. And so we really need to work with the other counties and the other House District Chairmen in those other areas to work on that. I have good relationships with the state senator from Columbus, also from Augusta, and also a House member that's down in the St. Simon area. He's actually in the Republican leadership of Georgia class of 2015 with me. And so it's really partnering with other people and building coalitions so that we can actually get that changed as a ballot initiative so that it doesn't require all of Fulton County. Once we have that come together, And I talked to Jan Jones about 6 weeks ago. She says it's really about a 6 to 8 year process. So it can be done, it's possible. And it really takes someone that wants to really focus in on it. I really think that some people like to run for elections, they like to talk about it, because it makes good theater, but they don't really want to push it. And I want to push on 2 issues. On 2016, I want a constitutional amendment, a ballot initiative, that the voters will decide if we eliminate the state income tax. I don't think it needs to be done by the state legislature. I think we just put it out there as a constitutional amendment and let all the voters decide. If it passes, it passes. I think it will. If it doesn't, then I'll work on another issue. The other one is I want to be committed for the creation of Milton County. A lot of people don't realize one of the heroes of North Fulton is a lady, she's 92 years old, but her name is Eva Galamos. She is the first mayor of Sandy Springs. I always said that she's like the Margaret Thatcher of North Fulton County, because 30 years ago she said, we need a Milton County, we need a Milton County, and also we need a city of Sandy Springs. Well, she bit by bit said, well, let's get the city of Sandy Springs first, and that's what she worked on, was the city of Sandy Springs. And it took her about 25 years, but she finally got the city of Sandy Springs. And by her one action, all of a sudden, you wouldn't have the city of Johns Creek, you wouldn't have the city of Milton if it wasn't for what she did, because that kind of opened up the floodgates. Now you have the city of Brookhaven, now you have the city of Dunwoody. So it's people that get more control over their local